My name is Jim Pascoe, and today I'm going to talk to you about why it's good to be a software manager. And I deliberately chose the word manager. I put the word manager in just to see if I could see if anybody visibly shuddered in the audience. So there's one or two people who went, oh my goodness, talk about management. As I say, my name's Jim. These are my URLs if you want to find out a little bit about me, or you send me email. If you want to follow along from the back, the slides are all online. If you go to this URL, you can basically click through the presentation just as I'm going to. So, okay. So why this talk? It sounds a bit odd, but in a sentence, basically, assuming any form of sort of software leadership can be a bit daunting. And I've been through this process a few times, and what I found that if you approach it in the right way, there are actually quite a lot of benefits in doing so. And it can be immensely rewarding, both from the perspective of your personal development and also, in terms of sort of helping the people that you're leading as well. So what I would like to do really is share my experience. We're going to hopefully address some concerns that people may have about that, and allay some concerns, and also debunk some myths as well. So the big elephant in the room, I think when I talk to the more junior members of the team and I sort of say, hey, you're doing really well, you've got bags of technical skills, you've got loads of emotional intelligence, why don't you take on a bit more sort of technical leadership? I can help you with that. Let's drive up your visibility and boost your career. And this is what people are thinking. They're really worried that the moment that you assume any sort of kind of leadership role, that you immediately stop coding, and it all becomes about PowerPoints and spreadsheets. My experience is, in a word, no, this doesn't happen. Certainly not what's happened to me. If anything, basically, I now get to sort of solve more of the kind of harder problems. So the harder technical issues that maybe the, sort of more junior members are not quite so equipped with, then these tend to come to you. So you end up with this lovely sort of balance of kind of like strategic technical leadership, and you get to sort of indulge your passion in coding as well. And I think as well, companies are sort of starting to come around to this actually, that, chances are the reason that you've got to this point is that you've been successful as a software engineer. So you're probably very good as a software engineer. You've moved kind of into more of a sort of managerial sphere. And companies are sort of saying, well, actually, hang on, you're still, you've got a lot of skills and experience here. So actually, we do want you to stay in touch with the code base. And that's good for you as well, because obviously you can maintain your views, ideas, and opinions about how you want the code to develop. And also, when you're sort of shaping designs and perhaps doing architectural decomposition, right, then all of these things, require you to stay in touch with the code. The other good reason to do it is obviously team members respect coding skills. So if occasionally as a sort of technical leader, you roll up your sleeves, right, and you deliver a set of really compelling patches, that goes a long way with a lot of people. Staying sharp, staying totally on it is a good thing. And the other reason is obviously, if you're now mentoring people, you've got to master your skills. You've got to be on top of your game. If you're effectively, you have a duty of care, a responsibility to the individuals that you're leading, right, to make sure that their careers are progressing, that they are developing as individuals and as engineers, then you've got to be totally on it as well. Assuming sort of any form of technical leadership doesn't mean you stop coding. Okay, then the second thing is, and like I said, I was trying to convince one of my reports to take on more of a technical leadership role, and it's like, well, what do I do day to day? I'm totally happy with programming. It's wonderful. We all love it. It's what we live for, yes? But what do I do day to day? Well, if you're about to enter a sort of technical leadership role, in a sentence, organize the work. So at Blue Wireless, we use Jira. Other strategies work equally as well. So at Intel, actually, in my team, we just had a spreadsheet. And that was a backlog of tasks. It had some element of t-shirt sizing for the task, and that worked fine. Every 2 weeks we sat down and we divvy up what everybody's going to do those 2 weeks, and and that was perfectly acceptable. Thing you want to avoid is having nothing. So if you end up in a sort of a tech lead role, is having nothing, because at that point you have no data, you have no basis on which to make priority calls, or even to say to your management, hang on, if you want me to now divert and do this, you're going to lose these things here. At a sort of more medium-term perspective, you think about trying to translate the commercial strategy, if you're in a commercial organization, into a roadmap. And what that means pragmatically is basically developing a series of work packages and deliveries. So in an ideal world, what you're doing is you're looking at what's kind of coming. You're building a view of what the next 6 months is going to hold, and you're sort of dividing this up into work packages and deliveries, and generally kind of like socializing that. And I wouldn't make that too formal because it changes a lot, but having a basic view, an idea, an opinion, and being able to say, well, yes, this delivery will contain these features, this delivery will contain these features, that's a good thing. The other thing that's a good thing to do, develop an appropriate amount of process. So by appropriate, I mean, if you've got a small team of, say, like 5 people who are all very like-minded, all at very sort of similar levels of skill, then obviously you probably need quite a small amount of process. I mean, you don't need, sort of IBM style heavyweight, sort of software engineering process. But the one thing I would say, to focus on is get some concept of the definition of done. And what I mean by that is, if you basically say to 2 engineers, okay, go off and implement a widget for me, please. After a week, they'll come back and you say, have you done it? Yes, they'll both say, yes, I've done it, right? Now, actually, that variation can mean different thing to different people, right? Key thing to bear in mind, nobody's trying to sort of mislead you or anything like that, but what it is that definition does vary. So on one hand, you'll have something that is like, somebody will say, yes, I've created lots and lots of unit tests, I've written Sphinx documentation, it's all beautifully packaged in our CD flow, and we can deliver this to customers and make money. Brilliant, very good. And another person will say, yes, I've done it, and actually what they mean is I've created a bit of a prototype in my home directory. All right, so actually creating some sort of definition of done and saying, well, a task is done when we see the documentation is complete, when we've got tests that are covering the new code in the unit test infrastructure, that will really help you provide a sort of a basis for consistency. All right, this is an interesting one. So how do you motivate people? So how do you get engineers to do what you ask? Now, engineers are very, very smart people. And actually one of the lovely things about coming to ACCU is like looking at the sort of, kind of like the people that are here, right? And just, listening to the discussions that I've already had, listening to Hannah's keynote this morning. Right? I mean, people are smart. They certainly have brains, they've got ideas of their own, right? And they have options. So one of the things you quickly realize as you sort of move into kind of more managerial things is that people won't necessarily do what you say just because you say it. So in terms of motivating people, there are lots of things that you can do and what you should do. And for me, what I found to be absolutely fundamental in this regard is respect, right? Is having respect for people and for, respecting people as people. So understand individual motivations, right? Try to understand, what are people, what do they want? I mean, some people want to work 80 hours a week and really, sort of chase career growth and everything. That's brilliant, that's fine. Other people really don't, and that's fine as well. And the skill of management, if you like, is sort of blending together individuals to deliver on these, these sort of commercial goals. One technique, use interesting tools and libraries. So think back, I mean, if you remember the first time you saw like Unix or C++11 or Boost or LaTeX, for me, all of those things, had a sort of kind of bit of an emotional response. I remember seeing these things thinking, yep, that's the answer right there. We'll work out the problem later, but, I know it's definitely going to involve, Linux and C++11, yeah? You get that sort of sense of like, right, these things are really interesting, right? So harness that, right? That kind of intrinsic motivation makes things much more interesting, right? Yeah? Make it fun. So years ago, in my first job, we had a capability audit, and this company came in and they audited the company and they said, your bug database is massive. You have 2,000 open bugs, right? We're not going to think about potentially acquiring your company until this is resolved, right? So we had a problem. And it was like, right, well, what do we do about this massive bug database? So my manager at the time, what he did is he said, right, okay, Friday from 3 till 6, we're going to sit around a table and we're going to go through each of these bugs one by one, right? And within about sort of 20 minutes, people had like completely checked out, right? You could tell, everybody's mind was on the kind of the weekend, right? And it dragged and it dragged. Then years later, I was in a similar position. So I said, right, rather than this, we're not going to do this, right? What we're going to do instead is we're going to write scripts to do this, right? We're going to code this, right? So I got one guy to implement the script in Erlang, one guy to do it in Go because he was interested in Go, and I said basically anything that's older than a year with a commit associated to it with it, right? We'll just close, okay, right? Because chances are that bug's been fixed, all right? It's done, right? You know, and we did this. We all picked a language, and we did it in different languages. You know, company threw in some pizza, and we did this on a sort of Friday afternoon as an impromptu kind of hackathon, right? And it was amazing, right? I mean, people were enthused. You know, they were. You know, suddenly you brought in new technologies into the company. You know, you started. People went home feeling like they'd been invested in. You know, all of these things, and you got your sort of bug database was sort of cleared up a bit as well. So it's one of the reasons why my company uses Lua today, is because we decided to sort of give it a bit of a go, and you know, and then suddenly decided that actually this is really useful and really quite decent, you know. So make it fun. It doesn't, you know, these things don't have to be sort of a drudgery. Praise is free. So I think somebody else, maybe Hannah mentioned it this morning, right? But I've not understood why, we joke, you know, in my company sometimes that basically praise is an absence of like complaint. Yeah, so if nobody is complaining, then you know you're doing you know it's going well, basically. But actually saying to somebody on a Friday, you know, well done, that's a really good piece of work, you've worked hard, excellent, thank you very much, that person will go away and have a really good weekend, right? Because they feel like, you know, that everybody's happy with them, you know, that they're working hard, it's all going well, you know, and what does it cost me? Like nothing. I mean, you know, you obviously has to be sincere. You can't do this, you know, sort of, you know. And when somebody has worked hard, you know, just thank you. I think Matt Godbolt did a whole talk about the two most powerful words in the English language were thank and you. I think he said at some point. So, but you'll be amazed. And track happiness. If you get into a sort of a managerial position, right, the one kind of proxy metric for, you know, how things are going with people, I think, is happiness, right? And it, you know, if, generally speaking, engineers that are happy are, you know, motivated, they've got interesting work, things are going well, you know, there's no sort of problems. When that starts to change, all right, then that's the point at which, in my mind, it sort of triggers an alarm bell, and I start asking questions. You know, you start thinking, okay, what's you know, what's going on here? Is this person all right, basically? Okay, so hard conversations. All right, so very recently, so like I said, I was trying to sort of encourage this junior member of the team to sort of take on a bit more of a managerial role. And he had, you know, sort of bags of technical skills, right? Bags of emotional intelligence, right? He's really good. Everybody respects him, right? And he was really resistive of doing this. And eventually, when I sort of got to the bottom of it, and I said, you know, kind of, what are you so worried about? What do you think is going to happen? He said, I really don't want to have hard conversations with people. These things do happen occasionally, right? And it'd be sort of a bit remiss of me probably to say that, you know, this is never going to be a thing that you'll encounter, right? But actually what you realize is that, you know, providing that they're sort of conductive in a constructive and respectful manner, then actually they are constructive and things get better, right? You know, people grow and, you know, things change for the better, right? So, you know, a few tips. Come straight to the point. If you're ever in a situation where you have to do this, you know, come straight to the point, focus on the outcome, make it clear what needs to be changed, and above all, and this is the crucial thing, be fair and be respectful, right? Like I said, remember, these are people, you know, with real lives, and, you know, they're all trying to do their best. They've got families, they've got commitments, they've probably got things going on that you don't know about, you know, so like, you know, respect is, you know, is absolutely paramount. All right, so what actually are the benefits of doing this then? So, you know, I've given you all this kind of advice, but why would you actually do it? What's in it for you to sort of take on technical leadership? Well, firstly, you can influence the technology. So the reason that my company uses C++20 is basically because I was in a position to say, all right, yeah, we're going to do this project, we're going to do it in C++. And everybody was really, you know, my team was really happy with that, right? They're like, this is brilliant. We've been itching to use C++20 for years. Well, okay, all right, you know, you can influence the technology. You get to solve quite interesting software engineering problems. So I mean that as a kind of, you know, in addition to sort of coding problems. So you get to think about things like versioning, delivery, DevOps, all of these kind of, sort of core strategy things. So if anybody's picked up the Google software engineering book, Titus Winter's book, he goes, which is a great book, by the way, and it's a great handbook for, sort of starting out in sort of kind of technical leadership. But all of those kind of issues that Titus and everybody, all the other authors talk about, these are all the things that you can think about and you can do. You get commercial exposure. So you start peeking into the kind of the strategy of the company, start seeing where the company's going. And also what you can do is you can start to see how you can supply technology and code and software that will fulfill that commercial strategy, right? And that's very cool as well, is when code that you've developed within your team or you yourself, right, has gone out into the world and now it's started to, make revenue and all of this. That's a lot of fun as well. Your communication skills will improve a lot, and you'll be forced to communicate with lots of people. And for me, I find that really quite, that's the real payoff is, you get to talk to a lot more people about a lot more things, basically. So your communication skills will improve. And you can help people as well. I mean, so you can negotiate for training budgets. You can, sort of give praise. You can, sort of help them with their problems. And when they come to you and say, Jim, I'm not feeling very well today. I'm a bit low. Do you mind if I work at home? Of course you can, just do it. You don't even need to ask, right? So I can, I can provide that, and I can go and go to my management and say, this is what I'm doing because, it's helping. And the other thing as well is it's very, I find it sort of kind of managerial stuff to be, it's quite introspective. You learn weird things about yourself and others. I mean, one of the things that I learned about myself, which is, perhaps a bit odd, is I quite like responsibility. That sounds very strange. I mean, most people don't, but, and I quite like helping people as well. So when people come to you and, as I say, they say they've got problems in their lives or whatever, then you can, you can help that. You can have a positive impact on that person, So that's been very, very rewarding for me. So conclusion. All right. So like I said, technical leadership can be daunting, but don't be put off. I mean, this is, I really would urge you, even if you don't like it, you can always go back. So don't worry about it. But what it does do is it gives you a whole series of skills and mindsets that otherwise you might not have if you, sort of just say, I'm going to just do nothing but, I just want to stay very much coding. It's definitely rewarding when you approach it in the right way. You can always go back. And as I say, just remember, you will always be able to write code. And there'll always be code that you can write, out there. So, don't worry about that, basically. But as I say, yes, for me, it's been immensely rewarding. And also what it has done, it's given me this massive respect for people. I don't know if I'm just getting a bit old or something like that, but, you're starting to you suddenly realize that actually it's, the people are what's important here, So, like I said, it's done that for me, so. All right, so those are my details. Anybody got any questions?